Hello and welcome back to Inside Quotes, the show where my brother and I rewatch, review, and relive the staples of our childhood. This is episode 90, and I'm your host, Jeremy, and with me today is my older brother, Jonathan. Jonathan, welcome back to the show.
Quack, quack, everybody. I'm excited to be here to talk about my favorite Paul Walker movie.
Oh,
wait.
Fast Five?
Actually, I forgot about Meet the Deedles.
What is Meet the Deedles?
You've never heard of Meet the Deedles?
What is Meet the Deedles?
Meet the Deedles was like... Are we just hopping right into it?
Yeah.
Okay. It was this movie I saw on cable in like the late 90s, and I've just thought about it ever since. Basically, Paul Walker and this other guy are like surfers that decide to become rangers at Yellowstone to impress a girl or something like that.
Okay.
That's the only thing I remember about it.
Sounds good.
I thought it was so funny. I rewatched it a few years ago. It was not good, but it had a great soundtrack.
Okay.
We're talking all the ska bands. We had Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. We had Goldfinger. We had Save Ferris, and more.
So basically, your
more.
Average, ordinary, everyday Tony Hawk game.
Smash Mouth may or may not have been on it. If they weren't, that was a missed opportunity.
So my question is, has he been in anything besides this movie that we're about to cover and
Fast and Furious?
Fast and Furious?
He's been in some other stuff. Nothing that I've seen.
Oh. Okay, Meet the Deedles is that weird blue hair thing.
Yeah, it's like the
on
poster.
Disney Plus.
It's got like his hair is like shaped like a wave.
Okay. Interesting. You'd think he would be in a lot more.
You would think that.
But I guess that takes up a lot of his time. No, because he was in 8 Below. That's what I know him from.
Oh, yeah. That was a library movie for sure. One-time watch.
Yep. But I loved it.
Was it better than Snow Dogs?
It's a different movie than Snow Dogs.
It's different.
This one's serious. Anyways, what's your favorite Fast and the Furious movie?
I've only seen the first one.
I've only seen the last one. I've only seen the 10th one.
All right,
That's crazy.
I'll work my way up, and you work your way back down from the top, and we'll meet in the middle, and we'll cover Fast Five on the podcast.
That sounds like a plan.
Also, I do not want to watch all those movies.
That also sounds like a plan.
Jeremy, what movie did you pick today for your pick?
This one is a super nostalgic one for us. And upon review, we get it. It's not super good quality, but just let us have this one. This one is a movie made in 2003 with 2003 graphics, 2003 acting, 2003 writing. And it's based off of a book by one of the greatest authors of all time, Michael Chrichton.
Yeah.
Timeline. And the movie is also called Timeline.
Timeline.
So, so basically, if you haven't seen this movie, it's got Gerard Butler. Yes. The Phantom of the Opera. It's got Paul Walker, who is a fast guy. The reason Wiz Khalifa wrote that song.
It's got this guy from Band of Brothers.
It's got the guy from Band of Brothers, and it's got the guy from Garfield 2: A Tale of Two Kitties.
Oh yeah.
Who pretty much reminds me of John Cleese.
He does sound like him, like a kid.
Yeah.
I just thought similar.
Yeah. But anyways,
everyone knows who we're talking about. The professor in the movie.
Okay, so if you haven't read the book or seen this movie, it's basically about this group of college archaeologists and their professor in France, but somehow the college students are also teachers teaching that one random group. I don't know.
Probably like graduate students or something.
Yeah, okay, yeah. They seem a little older than college anyways. And their dig in the south of France is currently being funded by this like random company called ITC. And ITC, this is where it's like a sci-fi / historical fiction. And that's kind of like the best of both worlds, because sci-fi on its own kind of gets boring for me, and I just love National Treasure, so historical fiction is for me. Anyways, this company basically decides it's going to invent a way to fax 3D objects instead of just words. And by 3D objects, we mean humans. But they made a mistake somehow, and they came across this wormhole that takes you back to the year 1357.
Yeah.
Which is
Castleguard, France.
Castleguard, France, which is not a real place in real life and was not a real war.
Tiny Tim, who did not die.
And Lady Claire, who was not real, but based off of Joan of Arc.
Side note, this movie could have been improved by Gonzo and Rizzo, like, narrating
Oh,
it.
for sure.
Like, just walking through the towns of France and just following them around.
But also, what movie couldn't be helped by that? I think I've got you there.
The original Stuart Little.
Good point. All right, moving on. So basically,
because it's already got a mouse in it.
Okay. Well, all right. So it's not really a time travel movie, even though it is.
Mm-hmm.
It can only be. It is a time travel, but you can only go to that 1 year.
Yeah,
because of the wormhole.
Yeah,
situation.
in the movie they explain it as like it's not a time machine per se. They've like happened across a wormhole that is to the specific point in time. So like that's I mean, it kind of stinks for them. They can only go back to this one place.
What's unfortunate about this is that it takes place during a very violent time in France's history, the 100 Years' War.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's true. That's a true thing. And but it's very they've taken a lot of liberties, even from the book. I haven't read the book, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I started to listen to the book on I got checked it out from the library using the Libby app, and I've only gotten like the first couple hours into it, but already there's like significant differences.
Yeah.
But I haven't finished it, so I can't really go into like in depth of all the differences. The biggest thing I've noticed so far is that so the whole story in the movie, it's like the professor, his whole I can't even say the word, the archaeological dig is being funded by ITC.
Yes.
And he goes to visit their corporate offices, and they tell him about the whole time travel thing. We're explaining this terribly, but the whole plot
so
is
does
like
the movie.
The whole plot is like the professor goes back in time, gets stuck there.
Yes.
In the movie, it's his son, the Paul Walker character, that is like, we got to go find my dad, you know? And it's kind of a search partially to like bring him back home. In the book, it's not his son. The character is like not his son. It's like he's just one of his students.
Okay.
And he's had like, his parents have died. And
teacher's pet.
He's like a father to him.
Gotcha.
But it's not just him. Like, he's that kind of figure to like all his students. He's like the cool professor. Like, oh, come have dinner with me at my home and that sort of thing. And like, I want to be involved in your life sort of thing.
Cool professor for sure.
So I feel like that was a change for the adaptation. To
Okay.
just like give it more stakes maybe to make it like, oh, this is my dad, you know, instead of.
Well, why didn't they make him do a Scottish accent?
Well,
because those are two very different accents.
I was thinking about that because I was like, as I was watching it, obviously the professor has a Scottish accent. Paul Walker sounds like Paul Walker. And it's like they could have just had it the same way and not had to explain the accent in any way.
Yeah.
But I guess you're assuming his mom was American.
Assuming. Sure. Anyways, this movie is super medieval. And
Evil?
if I think medieval, it's like yeah, like sort of evil, but not like too evil.
Okay.
It's like a good kind of evil, you know?
Okay. All right.
But medieval, this is like the movie that I think of when I think of medieval, besides Shrek, of course. And like Redwall, the books.
Okay.
And maybe there might be some more, but this one is a very nostalgic movie for me.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the first movies where like I was starting to notice and pick up on like death scenes and like the reality of death. And we've gone over this a couple episodes ago with
When did we talk about that? It was probably months ago.
It was earlier this spring. Oh, Ice Age.
It was Ice Age.
Yeah, it was Ice Age because, well, Ice Age and Finding Nemo. We've kind of had a theme this year of like influential death scenes to my life growing up.
Interesting.
And I feel like this one for sure is like one of the first like anything can happen at any second, like the reality of death and how quick it could be scared me as a little kid. But I was like, whoa, I'm an adult now after seeing this. I'm ready. But like immediately when they get into the woods, when they travel back into 1357, the two Marines that they had with them immediately get killed because like they stab first and ask questions later. Like they have no value for other people's life in medieval times,
and they're unlucky because they pop up in the middle of the woods and there just happens to be like soldiers coming by, chasing someone with like bows and arrows and all that and swords and stuff. So it was unfortunate timing.
Yeah. Anyways, they kind of get stuck there because one of the Marines goes back after dying, and he had brought a grenade with him, and he was gonna like blow up these medieval knights with his grenade, but he got sent back at the wrong time, and he blew up with his grenade. He blew up the time machine, so they had to fix that in order to get these people back. So they're stuck here for now. Meanwhile, they bring Francois along with them, and he's one of the students, the French students that speaks fluent French, and that's the reason that they needed him. And he said, well, the professor, he's such a good guy, man.
Yeah.
He's like, the professor would have done it for me, so I'll go for him and help him. And then he unfortunately gets stabbed.
For being French.
Because they thought he was by Jack Harlow. Also, side note, there's a guy in this movie that looks just like Jack Harlow now.
I don't know the character's name, but he's played by Martin Sheen.
Michael Sheen.
Michael Sheen, not Martin Sheen.
Yeah, not Martin Sheen.
Is Charlie Sheen's dad.
Yeah. But Michael Sheen, man, we're looking at it right now. He looks just like him.
He's got the like black Jack curly Harlow. Hair.
Yeah. In like the beard.
He's a white guy, but he looks like he could jump. That's a 2023 reference. That is, right there,
wow.
For a movie I have not watched.
Anyways, Michael Sheen, he's in
a few shows and things. He's in that Good Omens show, which I've never watched. I just know him. There's like a clip of him like on a Zoom call with David Tennant, and they're like making each other laugh, and like that's what I know him from.
So he looks like Simon Pegg to me. Look exactly, but not in this movie.
Well, he's English.
Yeah. I have from an incredible source.
Okay.
That he was in the Twilight movies.
Oh.
As one of the vampires.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
And he was also in some random movie.
Was he in Breaking Dawn Part 1?
I believe so. I think he's in all of them.
That's literally the only one I've seen.
You really?
I saw that one. Out of order. See, so you're saying the Francois death hit you as a kid? That like affected you?
It super did. I don't know, because he's like clearly one of the nicest guys in there. He's super quiet. Definitely didn't deserve to die. And it just makes you more mad at how stupid people were back then.
Yeah.
How like little value they had towards life, other people's lives. And how medieval they were. Sounds fully evil to me, honestly.
I feel like that one was impactful for me too. Just because of you felt super bad because they had to convince him to go. Like he was scared, and it shows him like before he gets in the machine and everything, like he's like tearing up, he's like scared. His other friend who stays behind, he's like, "Do you know what this machine does?" It like scrambles you into neutrons and then pulls you back together. For a minute you cease to exist.
And that's scary.
I mean, just to like wrap your head around something like that. But so you just feel like really bad because they like convinced him to come, and he was like really scared, and then like he doesn't last long. He gets killed.
No. And Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like young. He's like in his 20s, and I was like, at that point, I didn't know that. I thought only old people would die, you know. But I'd never seen that firsthand in a movie.
Yeah.
I guess that would be firsthand, would it?
So let's go back here a little bit. Do you remember the first time that you saw this movie?
I just remember watching it. I don't remember where it was.
Yeah,
I knew it was Justin's movie.
yeah, that's what I remember. We didn't see this in theaters. This was one that our older brother had on DVD.
I was pre-kindergarten, if that, when this came out.
Yeah.
So I couldn't have seen it in theaters.
Yeah, no. I mean, this isn't even the kind of movie that like mom would have taken us to see. I don't think as kids.
There's like a couple F words in it.
Yeah,
too.
there's this was a PG-13. It had some language in it, but I feel like other than that it wasn't too bad. I think it got a pass, I guess, from the family. But it was just very much of like the time of these types of movies were, I don't know, just popular in that time of like the early 2000s. There was a lot of like, I don't know, just you had the Lord of the Rings movies, so there was that kind of medieval feel sort of to those, medieval fantasy. I remember there was like a King Arthur movie that came around the same time as this.
Okay.
That was another one that Justin had. I don't know.
I know Gladiator.
Gladiator. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a new genre of film or anything like that.
Right.
I just remember, I feel like there was a lot more interest in like knights and sword fighting and action scenes and that sort of thing in that era. One side note, one memory I did have was in like the battle scene at the end, there's these trebuchets, which are different than catapults.
Yes.
The only reason I know that is because when we were at FCA, they had a trebuchet contest.
I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
And it was like the middle school kids. I don't think I participated in it, or it was like maybe the grades above me. But like they got like a team to like build a trebuchet, and it's kind of like a science club type of thing where you build a trebuchet, and then you can see like who can launch an egg the farthest or something like that. And so like after school one day, everyone took their like mini trebuchets that they built. Obviously not the skyscraper ones like in the movie, but like mini ones out to like the football field or whatever by the gym by school, and like everyone went and launched them. I just remember that. And I remember like seeing this movie, and I'm like, "That's not a catapult. That's a trebuchet. I know what that is."
Yeah.
Which is like
far more effective than catapults.
It's much more fun to say.
That too.
But yeah, I didn't build one, so I didn't win the contest.
Were we just? Was that during school?
I think it was after school. It may have been during school.
So
if you went to it,
I went to it.
I remember a lot of people went. Like I feel like all the classes probably went to go watch.
That's super weird.
I don't know. Yeah,
that was a school event.
It was the only
like
time we ever did it. Like they didn't do it again.
Yeah.
You know, I started this out by saying this is my favorite Paul Walker movie. It's probably my favorite Gerard Butler movie, though. Like,
okay, what else is he
this
in?
This is the definitive Gerard Butler movie to me.
Yeah,
and that's so strange to think of because like he was in like 300, and he's like been in a lot of stuff. But when I think of him, I think of Timeline, 300. And P.S. I Love You.
Okay.
I feel like that's three very strange movies to like know him from.
Clearly, someone hasn't seen How to Train Your Dragon.
Okay, I've seen the first one,
The Hidden World,
but everybody sounds like Gerard Butler in that.
I know
they all sound like him. And the one movie I watched this year that I didn't know he was in was Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, which is a good one.
Which was strange.
It's very strange.
To see him
Fever
in
Dream. He was in Nim's Island, so you might want to recount your.
I've never seen that.
Just kidding. But he did this right before Phantom of the Opera, which is probably one between that and 300. Those are his two like definitive roles for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so like this came out the year before Phantom of the Opera, and I'm sure he was practicing his singing voice and his creepy staring. Um, but yeah, this is my only experience to that because I've never seen 300 until last year. This is the only movie besides How to Train Your Dragon, that I've seen him in.
So Jeremy, what's your favorite war?
What?
What's your favorite war?
None wars, I guess.
It's not the 100 Years' War in France.
Probably not.
I thought
the 100 Years' War is just really stupid to me.
Oh yeah,
it's just like 4 different people, royal families, just like fighting over their claim to the throne. It's just like really rude.
Do you think that they got to year like 98 or 99 and they're like, let's just see it through to 100, you know?
Yeah. You might as well.
Might as well, you know?
Just more lives lost, you know?
You don't want it to be like a
OCD
on
person.
on an odd number, you know? 100 years sounds better.
Yeah.
One thing I thought was kind of interesting in this movie is I guess they're trying to make it, well, first of all, I guess, before I go down that route, so this is not like an actual historical battle.
No.
Or place,
No.
Castleguard, France.
It is not.
There is 100 Years' War.
Yes.
For the setting, but this isn't like an actual like pivotal battle to history or anything like that. It's just something created for the story. Okay.
Right.
So yeah, I thought this was interesting because usually in like American movies, you know, you're rooting for like the Americans, you know, but this movie doesn't have either. You know, it's just like, well, you're rooting for the American group of people to get home, but it's like this is a war between England and France.
So our only known option is to go against England.
Yeah, because they're our enemies.
But also because they're really horrible in this movie. But
they are. I mean, I thought that was interesting because
the English were so selfish back then.
I guess so.
Yeah, they're really rude, and they killed a lot of people and murdered and stole people's land and countries and stuff all over spices, and they didn't even use any of them. Give me a bowl of mushy peas, will you? Thank you.
I thought it was an interesting perspective because you're like rooting for the French to win in this movie.
Yeah,
which
is fine.
But it's because of fake historical events. Because it's like you need the French to win because it's pivotal to history.
Do you want to vote?
But it's not real.
Do you want to? Do you want to root for England? Not really.
I mean, maybe.
They're a bunch of bullies.
Yeah, they're not very nice in this movie, but
I'm sure France had their times too. But
yeah,
you know, compared to England, they're pretty chill.
Other than though, like the leaders of each army for like the French or the English, like it just you can't really tell what's going on. It just looks like a bunch of people like swinging swords at each other in the battle. I thought the Trebuchet stuff was cool.
Yeah.
But a lot of the fighting scenes, I felt like it kind of went on a little long.
Yeah. I think the reality of being stabbed or sliced with a sword is super interesting here because like you get hit once and you're done back then.
Yeah.
And that's how they play it. And it's crazy. Like war, I have no concept of war besides just movies.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's crazy that you train for all this amount of time and it could just end in a second. Like even with guns, even in World War II, watching Band of Brothers.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild to me.
I feel like that's a thing with like, not just like superhero movies, but like modern movies. There's a lot of like action and stuff, but like,
there's no consequences.
The consequences aren't as real.
Yeah.
Because people aren't, they're going to be in the next one. They're going to survive. And so you get a movie like this, and it's like,
it's kind of
these aren't like, it's kind of nice that they die, you know?
Well, no, it's kind of
but
nice
because it's
like,
real.
It's a real thing, and it kind of puts you in your place and makes you makes you feel less invincible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely makes you want to get a suit of armor, though.
Oh yeah.
I can get on that. That reminds me of at Mosey, where they have the Museum of Science and Industry in Tampa, Florida. They have this Tesla coil that you could stick your arm and touch the lightning, but it's through a thing of chainmail, and it's like I feel like I'm hoisting some lightning from like Merlin's staff or something. It's pretty cool.
There was a random shot. I just saw Paul Walker on screen, where he's trying to like riz up Kate at the beginning of the movie in like the tunnel.
Cringe, dude. That was so cringy.
And I don't remember exactly the dialogue exchange, but she basically says something like, "What is it that you want?" And he just kind of like looks at her and is kind of like smiling at her. And it reminded me of, now this is very specific just for me and you, but the face he made,
cast it out live.
the face that he made reminded me of Randy's face from Home Improvement when he
gets
his mom the pirate
cologne. I knew exactly what you meant.
You knew where I was going.
I knew exactly.
Anytime anyone just smiles at someone a little too long, it reminds us of a specific episode of Home Improvement.
Go watch Home Improvement season 1, episode 6 or something. I don't know. Go watch the whole show. That's my favorite childhood show.
Randy gets his mom like some kind of like pirate perfume or something like that, and he just thinks it's the greatest gift
like,
ever.
This burns.
She puts it on. It's like, ooh, it burns. And he's just smiling, like he's like, "Isn't that great?"
Somehow he had some ulterior motives. He's like, he's being evil
for sure.
Another part about this movie is that it has one of our actors from one of our favorite movies of all time, That Thing You Do. It's got the bass player.
Yeah.
TB player, as he was cast. I did not recognize him at all because he has like frosted tips and
some facial hair, glasses,
and an attitude check.
Yeah. When I watched this movie back in the day, obviously it's not a perfect movie, but as a kid,
it has an 11% on Rotten Tomatoes.
When I thought this movie was so like clever and really smart in like the writing, as far as like the callbacks of like basically them influencing history and it influencing the things that they're researching and digging up at the archaeological site and that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's a good time travel
I feel
story,
like
and I don't like time travel stories.
I think it has a really good premise.
Yeah.
And I feel like it probably just wasn't. It was just kind of rushed and wasn't executed properly.
Well, I mean, Michael Chrichton is probably one of the best like creators of concepts and ideas, and he was upset about this because he didn't sell any of the rights to any movie rights to his books until he died, which was in 2008. But like he was so upset about that.
Well, he had sold rights to his books, but after this one came out, and this one he did not like the way it was carried out. After that point, he like stopped signing away the rights to his books because he was upset about it. So I don't know. I've been listening to the book and everything, and it's very much Michael Crichton. If you don't know, did we mention like he wrote like Jurassic Park?
Yes.
So it's very similar in themes to that. It's very much got like the whole.
It's intense the whole time.
It's intense. It's got the you've got like the corporate greed, like pursuing science without taking care of like the ethical concerns about it.
Yeah.
In this book, it's specifically about like quantum physics and that sort of thing, and pushing the fields of
real
quantum physics and like teleportation and that sort of thing. And, and in their research for that, they come across this. Well, actually, I think in the book it is time travel. Like I think they can go to other places.
I really want to read the book, but somebody has it on hold on Libby right now.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm like a few hours into it, so So I think it has a lot of the same themes as Jurassic Park, and it's probably not going to be as good,
Yeah.
but I'm enjoying it, and I think I can enjoy it. That's why sometimes I like to watch the movies first and like enjoy the movie for what it is, and then read the book.
You know,
Because if you do it the other way around, you're never going to enjoy that movie.
yeah.
And so I don't know.
I was talking to Grant about that. He's like, I always watch the movie first.
Yeah. And I think for me it helps
And it makes
too.
so much sense now.
It also helps you can like have a visual for it too.
Yeah.
And so for better or for worse, I'm always going to picture Gerard Butler and Paul Walker in that book, even though he's probably way different,
Sure.
in the author's mind.
Sure.
I don't know. Like I specifically did that with Hunger Games because I was like, oh, I like these movies. I'm not going to read the books because then I probably won't like the movies. But
I was pretty happy with it.
yeah,
It's a pretty good adaptation. I mean, the books, everyone's going to say the book's always better.
yeah.
So,
I like to be able to appreciate both, though.
yeah. So watch the movie first, I guess. I love. Never mind. I'm not gonna make a Percy Jackson statement. Except for the fact that I enjoyed the first movie, but I hadn't read the book first.
Yeah.
But now I appreciate both of them.
Mm.
So it works. It's a good foolproof idea.
I did, and I did the same thing with Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles. Like the book is so much better. No,
and you can't. It prevents you from becoming a snob too. Like, oh, you haven't read the book yet?
Yeah. Well,
it's so much better.
You mentioned to me like, do you think this would make a good like HBO series or something like that?
Yeah.
Like,
Now today, I would love to see a remake of this.
yeah.
I don't know if they've are able to sell Michael Crichton's books rights now.
Probably not.
Letting me do that, but he said until after he died. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, this is such a good concept. The only thing is, I feel like if it wasn't fully funded, it would just turn into like a Once Upon a Time quality, or like Merlin quality.
Well, yeah, and that's where you go, like not the Disney Plus route, but like the HBO route.
But it has to be like star-studded too, though. That's the thing.
Star-studded. Okay. So Muppet casting. No, I'm just kidding. I already added Rizzo and and Gonzo to the movie. So
we haven't even talked about Lupin being in this movie.
Yeah, Professor Lupin.
Professor Lupin,
David
clean-shaven David Thewlis.
Thewlis. That's a weird last name.
Thewlis.
Is that how you say
Thewlis? I don't know.
Thewlis.
Anyways, he's in this. This is technically the first movie I've seen him in because this came out before Harry Potter.
Do you think you saw this before?
I think so, for sure. It's such an early memory for me.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it again after and noticing that that's who I recognize him from. Only he doesn't have his iconic mustache. He's clean shaven.
Yeah.
And a scumbag in this movie. But I have that vivid memory of seeing him at the end of the movie, like his ultimate demise.
Yeah.
When he swaps place with him and gets stabbed.
Yeah.
Or that's what you think.
That's what you'd like to think. No.
But I also remember like the funny concept of the end, seeing the gravestone where they see, because name?
Lady Claire.
Yes, and Gerard Butler.
Andre Merrick.
Andre Merrick. Who's
Claire.
played by Gerard Butler. He decides that he's going to stay behind because he feels like he's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out his ear is the one that gets cut off from the grave. And it's sort of like a cool time travel full circle moment.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, when they go back and they go see that grave, they read his name on there. They uncover the name and everything. And it says Andre Merrick, born 1971, died 1380 something. I was like, that's so weird.
Yeah.
What a weird concept. That's a real thing. So it's really cool. It's a really cool brain scratcher, brain teaser of a concept, and I hope to see more of this type of stuff in the future, but more high quality. I could get on board with a 2023 20-year anniversary like remake.
Yeah. Well,
what is up with us doing 20-year-old movies now?
that's the way it works.
Oh,
Yeah, so we instantly thought of this movie after watching Indiana Jones.
yeah.
Um,
Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah, the new one. So we'll keep it. I mean, you can hear our spoiler review on the last episode for that one. But yeah, there was a lot of elements of that one that really reminded me of Timeline. So we're like, oh, we should watch that one next.
I was mad at what happened in Indiana Jones 5, but I was like, I want to right this wrong and see a good version of this, and that is Timeline. Although this movie is very bad, poorly quality. Specifically, the acting and the dialogue is horrible. But I love it. I can't help but love this movie.
It's probably just the nostalgia. I don't know.
I'm biased,
but I still like. I still like the characters. Like you still feel for them. You still like. You're still invested in them. I was just reminded though of when Indy like wants to stay in the past.
Yeah.
In the new one, I instantly thought of Gerard Butler. Like, oh, he wants to stay in France, 1357, because he's got himself a Lady Claire.
Yeah, but Indiana Jones had nothing to do with that time period.
No.
So he didn't deserve to stay there.
Yeah, and we already discussed our review and thoughts on that one, but
it's so good. Timeline, not Indy 5. Indy 5's good.
Yeah,
Indy 5's good, but I would rather watch Timeline, even though it has an 11% on Rotten Tomatoes.
As we were watching this, there were definitely scenes that popped up that you were like, oh, I remember this.
Yeah.
Like, what were some of those moments for you?
Francois's death.
Okay.
The time machine itself.
The time machine is cool.
The death scenes of the Marine guy getting stabbed and being dragged by the cart.
Yeah.
The trebuchet, the fire arrows, the Professor Lupin getting switched and about to be dead. A lot of the death scenes were very in my mind.
Yeah.
Remember the roof, thatched roof
when Kate is climbing out to escape. Yeah.
But yeah, I love me a good medieval movie.
So you just remember
especially
most of
Knight's
the movie.
Tale.
Oh yeah. See, that's another one for the list of movies around that time.
Yeah, that's my favorite sports movie for sure.
Knight's Tale is amazing.
Jonathan, tell me about your experience with medieval times.
Good question. Very good question. All I have to say is go Green Knight. When I went in 6th grade, me and my friends all cheered the Green Knight on, and he did not win. We thought he was going to win. He got all the way to the end, and then it's rigged. It's like wrestling.
They change the winner every night.
Yeah. We thought he was going to win. Like, he came back, and he ended up getting second. But I was like, the Green Knight, man. That was our guy.
Now explain to the listener what an experience of medieval times is. I've never been.
Oh, okay.
So the only dinner show experience I've had is Dolly Parton's Stampede in Gallenberg.
So medieval times, we went on a field trip in 6th grade, and I think there was like a museum part of it too, where you can like go through and look at dungeons and dragons. No dragons, but just like
dungeons.
Just like it was like castle themed and going through, and I don't really remember hardly any of that because you go there for the show.
Yes,
the show is you go and it's just like an arena where like medieval knights fight, like ride horses and have swords and fight each other, and while you're there, you're sitting down and you don't have any silverware, but you get like a big old turkey leg to eat.
Yeah,
and we got like a bowl of vegetable soup that you just drink like a cup.
Sounds good.
I don't remember any other foods. There probably was more than that. Probably like a roll or something like that.
It's probably like a corn on the cob or something.
Yeah, just like stuff you can eat with your hands. I just remember the big old turkey leg and the soup. That's what I guess that's what I like the most.
Eat like a king. Yeah.
And I think you get like a little crown or something to wear that says medieval times on it or something. And it's basically in like an arena, and you're split off in like different sections. And so like whatever section you seat at, like it corresponds with like a different night and their like colors.
Yeah.
So there's like a blue, red, green, whatever, all different ones. You root for that. That's the one you cheer on during the show. And Green Knight, he made it all the way to the final two, but did not succeed. And like it's all real. Like the knight died. Like he got stabbed. It's real consequences.
That's crazy.
That was, you talk about like coming to terms with death. That was 6th grade for me.
Sorry you had to go through that, Jonathan.
Thanks for bringing that up. No.
Where's the nearest medieval times?
So we lived in Florida, so we went to Orlando. And I always thought that's like the only one, but they're pretty common.
It's like a Margaritaville.
It's like all over the place, yeah.
It's like a rainforest cafe.
I went to. There was a couple other places in Orlando. We went to the Holy Land experience.
Awesome.
That was really cool. Because we were at a Christian school and they took us there.
Yeah. I got to take communion with Jesus. That was cool.
Hey. I do that every Sunday.
Amen.
But like they had really cool. I remember they had like a model of like Jerusalem, and it was like the size. It was like a miniature, but it was like the size of an entire room.
Yeah.
And you could just like walk around. It was like 50 feet, and you just like walk around. And you could
Yeah.
see all the different areas of the city and stuff. That was cool. They had a rock climbing wall, which was kind of random, but it's like, hey, you can do that. But they had. I mean, everything was like religiously themed.
It was cool.
Yeah, they had like
They had a play,
yeah.
like a crucifixion play.
You go into the tabernacle, you can see the priests do their sacrifices and stuff.
Yeah.
It was cool. The other place we went to in 6th grade, I think, was a little like miniature theme park. It was called Splendid China, and this doesn't exist anymore. I looked it up. It was it basically was like a gardens place that like recreated major like landmarks in China. So
Okay.
they had like a miniature wall of China that just like went throughout the entire park.
What's just the Wall of China?
Huh?
What's the Wall of China?
You don't know the Great Wall of China?
Oh, the Great Wall of
The
China.
Great Wall
oh,
of China.
yes. You
Yes.
just said the Wall of China.
The
That
mi-
could have been any four walls.
Right, yeah. It was a miniature Great Wall,
Okay.
but great nonetheless.
Okay.
And that was a cool field trip, I remember. But medieval times. That was
Florida
a place.
had some good field trips. I've noticed that after speaking with other people
Yeah.
in other states.
A lot of different stuff there.
St. Augustine,
Mhm.
the fort, Kennedy Space Center, Disney,
Yeah,
SeaWorld.
I mean, all the theme parks, Orlando in
Swimming with
itself.
manatees. We have the Everglades,
Yeah.
Publix.
And just the aquariums and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest.
Publix.
Publix is an iconic field trip. For
I forgot.
Floridians.
I thought you just meant going to the grocery store, but I'm like, no, we went to Publix corporate.
No,
And I had the best chocolate milk of my life in there.
exactly. Yeah, they have the best chocolate milk.
Yeah. Some great field trips. Maybe it was just our school. I mean, let's not
We
forget.
went to the movie theater.
We went to the movies. We saw.
No, I think it's just like we have a lot of opportunities. Like people
Yeah.
here in Kentucky have Kentucky Down Under, and they've got Holiday World.
Yeah. Theme parks are lacking
Nashville.
in Kentucky, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, we had stuff like the Holy Land experience, and
That might not be there anymore either.
I don't think it is. I think
Yeah.
it's done.
Is Medieval Times still there? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a thing.
Yeah. No, the closest one is Chicago. to
Chicago?
us right now. Yeah.
Hmm.
There's 7 or 8 locations total.
There's a scene in The Cable Guy where Jim Carrey takes Matthew Broderick to medieval times. I remember that.
Oh, haven't seen that.
It wasn't one of his best.
I've noticed that I haven't seen a lot of movies as a movie podcast host.
I haven't seen that. And yet we've seen every movie at
I
the
know.
same time. It's weird.
I'm okay with just saying that I'm an expert on children's cinema and not regular cinema. Man, look at that trebuchet fly. Fun fact, did you know that flamed arrows were not common at all in medieval times? They just do it for visuals in movies.
That makes sense.
Because it looks cool.
Yeah,
because it completely ruins the trajectory, and it doesn't do anything, and the flame's just going to go out if it lands. Maybe you'll get a dry haste back, but still.
Also, I was thinking about that because in the movie, they're like, oh, don't light these arrows because then they won't see them coming.
Yeah.
They just called them night arrows.
Night arrows.
And
Those
so
are just regular arrows.
And so they just shoot a bunch of them off, and they just start hitting everybody because they're not expecting it. It's like, why didn't they I was thinking they probably just did that all the time back then.
Yeah.
They probably just didn't light them.
Also, like, why would you give away your position by showing your trajectory with a flame?
Yeah. You can watch it coming, they can move out of the way.
Yeah. So anyways, Jack Harlow is in this movie, and that's who I would like to be replaced in the new version.
With Jack Harlow.
With Jack Harlow. Yep.
If I were to have like an item from the movie, it'd be like the little marker thing.
Yep.
That'd be cool.
Little watch.
Yeah, it's got like the time code or how much time they have left.
I mean, you can have that, and I'll just have a suit of armor. Thanks.
You could. Okay. Done. I don't want to wear that around.
I don't need to wear it around. I just keep it, use it. That'd be so cool to have. Anyways, I think it's about time we wrap up, huh?
I think so. Maybe a bit shorter episode, but still a good movie. What, Jeremy? Do you have a letterbox score for this movie? Have you even thought about that?
Yikes! 3.5.
I'm a 3.5.
3.5. I'm okay with it being. It's a bad movie, which I would say it's probably a 1 on that scale. But it's such a good story and such a good concept and so much nostalgia. It affects it, changes it to a 3.5 for me.
Yeah. I still enjoyed it.
I have a good opinion of it.
Yeah, I don't regret rewatching it or anything like that. I felt the nostalgia just wasn't enough to like pull it up above a 3.5. So
it has a potential to be a 5. I'll say that.
Well,
maybe even a 4.5.
Maybe,
but not this one. Not this time. Maybe Jack Harlow's 2023 edition. Yes. Any final quotes at all? Just the born 1971, died 1385.
He repeats. Merrick does. It's like make your own history. That's kind of a
make your own history.
That's the lesson of the movie. If you can go back in time, do it. You'll fall in love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, another day, another staple. Well, everyone, our only question left is, what's your favorite inside quote from this movie? You might not have a lot, but let us know if you do. And let us know on Instagram at InsideQuotesCast.
And if you haven't followed us, go ahead and do that. And let us know if there are any movies you want us to cover on the show.
So, Jonathan, next week it's going to be your turn to choose. Yeah. So why don't you let the listeners know what we're going to be doing?
Well, we'll be covering another certified staple of our childhood.
Certified Hood Classic.
And all I have to say is, this could work.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal.
Here's a clip.
You gotta love crab. The nick of time, too. Doesn't take much more of those coconuts. Coconut milk's a natural laxative. Some things Gilligan never told us. Oh.
Our show art was done by Bryce Bridgeman, and you can find him on Instagram at GroovyBridge. Go check his stuff out.
And our music was done by Alex Bird.
And we would love it if you left us a 5-star review. And if you do, we promise to read it on the show.
But more importantly, 5-star review and we'll give you Greek fire.
We didn't even talk about Greek fire. So Greek fire, the historical inaccuracies of that is like nobody knows how to recreate that now.
Really?
Yeah. It was just like there's been some good guesses, but like nobody's been able to recreate it since Greek fire. That event, you know.
But what about your theory?
So I was like, Greek fire, Greece fire, the city of the country of Greece. That's the only that's liquid fire is grease fire, and you can't put it out with water.
Yeah.
It just gets worse. So that's my theory. Thanks for listening, everybody. We hope you enjoyed listening to us talk about our childhood staples just as much as we have. And if you did, make sure you hit follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so that you don't miss out on a future episode. And we're now on YouTube. So if you're YouTube, we're not. It's still audio, obviously, but
Yeah, we're gonna start posting the audio episodes up on YouTube. Our Indiana Jones episode is up there now, so we'll put a link in the show notes.
all right.
But yeah, go ahead and follow us over there. And also, if you like the show, share it with a friend.
Until next week, or 600 years ago, we'll see you next time on Inside Quotes.